Hello and welcome to week 5 of Steve's Sugarcraft tutorial. I hope you're all enjoying what we've been doing over the past few weeks. So in today's class I would like to look at some summer ideas where we'll be doing leaf cascade embossed stencil with some quilted flowers. One of my favourite areas, Art Deco, and we're going to be doing the Mackintosh rose, and also as well we're going to be doing the Art Deco stencil embossing. Following on from that, I'm going to be adding just that little touch of summer. There is a thunderstorm here at the moment, so if you do hear that in the background, that's what it is. So I'm going to be doing some fretwork butterflies. So I hope you will all enjoy what we have in store for you. So let's start on with our first thing, which is the embossed leaf cascade. I've covered my 6" by 6" cake with Renshaw sugar paste, and I've used the lovely lime green and gooseberry pro gel colours, and I've used the flower and modelling paste, which I'm going to show you how to do the embossed leaf cascade stencil. I added just a little bit more sugar paste to this one as I wanted it to be just a little bit softer. So I'm just going to prepare my stencil ready. This is the leaf cascade, and what I've done is I've cut some pieces of baking parchment ready to put the embossed paste onto. So I'm going to get the paste rolled out, and I'm going to use a pasta machine so I can get the same thickness for all the same pieces of the embossed stencil. So I'm just working a little bit of vegetable shortening into the paste, and then flatten this down roughly to the size that I want it before I put it through the pasta machine. I'll just roll that so it's a little bit wider. So I'm just going to take the paste now and pop that through the pasta machine. I've set this at thickness 4, so take that out, pop it back onto our board like this. So just rolling it widthwise, and then the stencil, I'm going to put just a little bit of Trex or vegetable shortening on the back of the stencil, and then place this over the paste and then emboss down so that you get that nice imprint of the leaves onto your stencil, onto the paste. And then I'm going to trim the surplus paste away, a little bit of the Trex, and rub over the top of the stencil like this. Then taking Super Pearl Luster Powder, I'm just going to brush across the stencil like that in the direction of the leaves, and take this all the way across. Right. Take a little bit of kitchen paper, and then in the direction of the leaves take this across your stencil like that, so you remove surplus powder. And then lift the stencil so that your paste is onto your board like that. So we've got our stencil design there. So taking a thin cranked palette knife, what I'm going to do is just slide that underneath and lift that carefully, bring in the paper, trim the edges. So I'm just going to trim across here with our cutting wheel, and at the bottom there as well. So just taking off those bits. And then we turn it this way. What I want to do is just trim along that bottom edge. You can see here we've got the the bottom part of the leaf. So I'm just going to trim that across. The beauty of actually putting it onto the paper like this is that you can prepare all of your panels to go onto your cake, and they will remain soft and pliable. So you can get all your panels embossed first of all. And then what I want to do is I want to measure the depth of the cake plus about 2 centimeters. So on this one it's going to be 16 centimeters. So I'm just going to mark it here, and I'm going to prepare them all like this, and they'll be then ready to put onto the side of the cake. So on the first one I want to create a pleat, so I'm going to use 2 plastic dowels. But what I want to do first of all is to put a little bit of texture onto the edge of the paste. So all I'm doing is using the modelling tool like this, and I'm just going to draw that from where the leaf design starts to the edge of the paste. So let's hold that down a little bit on that edge. Okay, and then I'm going to transfer that onto a non-slip mat like that, and then bring the dowels over. So what I'm going to do is to lift that first piece like that, so I can put the dowel underneath. It's approximately halfway on the paste width, and then if I just squeeze that down there and take this dowel over and bring that in like that. So what I'm going to do is to just put a little bit of pressure onto the paste there, and again on that one. So I can lift this edge over and push that down. Just lift that up so I can remove it. And then what I'm going to do with the other end, or the other part, is to emboss that down now. So we've actually got our pleat down the centre. Now if I lift that over a little bit more, push that down, there. Just going to take the palette knife. So I want to lift that back on itself, like that. For the remaining panels, what I'm going to do is to cut those in half. Now you can see on here with regards to the stencil design, this is the top of the stencil where I've cut partly through the design, and the bottom one here is where you can see the full leaves. So if I just pop that on there, and we are going to cut that through. So you can either use a palette knife, you can either use a cutting wheel like this, whichever you feel works best for you. So I've cut all of the panels in half, and I'm ready now to pop those onto the cake. So to pop those panels onto the side of the cake, I'm just going to take a ruler and scribe my first line on the side, and then take some water and just brush the water on the left hand side, probably about 3-4 centimeters, like that. And then what I'm going to do is lift this onto the side of the cake, like that. And I'm just going to take the ruler to make sure I've got it straight there. and on that side there, like that. Hello and welcome to Steve Benison's Sugar Artistry. I hope you've enjoyed our tutorials. I'd just like to tell you about my online store. These are all my cutters and moulds that I've created over the years. They're very innovative and allows you to do more than one thing with my cutters. Each of the cutters come with a full colour, step-by-step instruction leaflet. And these are the ones that we've done on our first tutorial, which is our lattice cutter. So you can head over to the website, have a browse, and I hope you enjoy your online shopping. Bring it away. And then we're going to use the palette knife, keeping it flat, and just cut in across the top of the cake. Like that. Do the same from that side. So we take the surplus away, just clean up any of those edges on the top, like that. And that's going to overlap about 1 centimetre. So again, if I just turn that towards myself to make sure it's straight, and then just lift the edge. And then the other half, some more water there, about 3 centimetres. And let's take that down. And I'm going to take the other panel, and that's going to overlap another 1 centimetre. Just make sure it goes down to the base of your cake. And then just check on that edge there, and take your palette knife, make sure it's nice and flat, and then cut into the centre of the cake to remove those pieces. Do the same on the other piece, like that. So adding more pieces. And that go to the bottom. Just tidy up the edges. So when we get back to the start of the cake here, I want to leave this panel open because I'm going to be doing some quilted flowers, and I want to have a contrast between the texture and also the cake surface. But you could continue to go round with your panels like this, and put that one here. I'm not going to stick it, I'm just going to show you, like that. And then on this edge, you can just lift that one back and put your remaining panel underneath like that. So you could have your panels just like this all the way around, or you could have one with the edge like that, which I'm going to have for the feature flowers, which are going to be the quilted ones. I'm just going to use the palette knife so I can just lift that edge slightly so you can see that you've got the angle on the edge, just pulling away from the side of the cake. So that defines the texture panels even more. So for the quilted flower, I'm going to use the 5-petal flower, which comes with the stencil as well, and also the small piece. And I'm going to use some Renshaw flour and modelling paste. I'm going to roll the paste a little bit thicker to give that cushioned effect. Flowers. And as I said, we need to roll it so it's a little bit thicker than you would normally have for flour, so we can get the texture on it. And then what I'm going to do is use the 5-petal cutter and then place that over the top. So roll it backwards and forwards, take away your paste, and then just clean the edges. And then if I pop that onto our pad for the centre of the flower, so just roll that. We're going to use this part of the cutter. Now, as it's a smaller one, what you can do is you can just push that down onto the paste like this. So clean that with your finger. Take that away. Pieces, just taking a little bit of water, and then what I'm going to do is just brush that on the centre of each of those petals, like that. A bit there, not too much. And then what I'm going to do is to place those over the top, and there. So what I'm doing is just pushing those down a little bit so they attach. And then if you take your stitching wheel, what I'm going to do is to emboss in the centre, so bring that backwards and forwards on this bit, and then take the stitching wheel, so continue to do the texturing around the outside. We're now going to do the centre, so I'm just going to use a little bit of Trex into some paste and a very small amount into the centre of my SB3 decorative button accents mould. So I'm just going to pop the paste in there and trim the top, and then just flex that in the centre. So we can pop that one in there. And then repeat for the other ones. So a small amount of paste. Go in the centre like that. So just pop the flowers on there, and then brush quite liberally over the top. So having got our flowers, pop those in there, and depending on how far you want them cut, you can push them down into the palette mould like that. So they can then dry. If you want them to cup a little bit more, you can just push down like that. I'd like to show you as well how you can use that 5-petal cutter which I used for the quilted flower into making a clematis. So what I'm going to do is just take some paste, just roll that a little bit more. This is a flower and modelling paste. So if we pop that over the cutter like this, so we cut those out the same as what we've done with the quilted flower, and then clean the edges, tap that out, and then just take our foam pad like this. What I'm going to do is just work on those petals. You can also do a Christmas rose using this cutter and the technique that I'm going to show you for the stamens. Obviously just colour it a little differently. So go back onto that one. Just make them a little bit wider there. And the centre. We can take our texture tool, just bring that to the edge of your board, and then what I'm going to do is to roll it from the middle to the outside edge and then down the middle again. So work that out. So I've got some paper, and then I'm going to use a little bit of spring green. Just put that on there to colour the centre like that. Just work that out a little bit. We use some lavender to brush that in on there. So working that all the way around on each one of those petals. So we do that on there. Working it in. I'm just going to pop that onto a clean piece of paper so that I can do a little bit on the reverse there as we go. I'm going to go back over onto that side again. So we go on to the soft side of your mat, and then what I'm going to do is just cup a little bit in the centre there and there, and then bring in your foam sponge so that can go in there that you want, so it looks as natural as possible with those petals there. So I'll show you a little bit closer. For the stamens, what I'm going to do, this is some spring green, and I'm just going to take the flower paste and then roll it into fine points like that, and then what you do is keep taking from it, rolling again like that, and put them together. Take away from the bottom some more paste, and then just keep rolling so you've got like a point on one end. Doesn't matter if it's a bit bulky at the bottom because you're actually going to be taking from that, so you just keep grouping those together like that, pushing those together, and because the paste is still soft it's sticking to itself, so we roll again. So when I brought that together, what I do is keep forming it around like that. So, more. There. Grouping them together. And just rolling it between your fingers. So what we've got to do now when they're gathered together is just take a little bit more of the green luster powder and just brush that a little bit more over the stamens. Take a palette knife, and what I'm going to do is just trim off at the bottom there. And then for our centre of our flower, just use a little bit of Tyler's glue in the centre, and then if you take your angle tweezers like this so that you can just pop that in like that. And then let that dry. And we're going to take a short commercial break there, we'll be back soon. With summer here, the addition of butterflies onto the cake with the leaf cascade stencil. I designed these butterflies. We've got a large, medium and small, and they're called FRETWORK butterflies. You can see them there. So for this size of the cake, I'm going to use the medium and the small one. And what I've prepared is some card onto a board, which I've scored and folded like this. So this is to put the butterflies into when I've cut them out. It's really important that you use a paste which is strong and pliable. So I've got a mixture of Mexican paste with a little bit of flour paste worked into it. So what I want to do is use some Trex on the paste and roll this out first of all. And then I want to roll it so it's just a little bit thicker in the middle than on the outside edges, so that creates a ridge to go down the centre of your butterfly. Okay, so if I lift the paste over and use a piece of non-slip mat, just place the cutter on there and then just use a very small amount of Trex over the top, and then lift your paste so that the thickest part goes down the centre of the butterfly. And then what I'm going to do is just tap that down, and then with your rolling pin roll from the middle to the outside edge like that. Slide the rolling pin your outline, and then what you're going to do is just take a little bit of Trex on your finger and rub it from side to side like that, so you can see all the white areas. And I'm just going to lift out the sections like this. So peel them out, collect them all together. Just got a little bit of paste there I want to get rid of, and takes a little patience to do it, but it's worth the effort. So just pull those out, another one there. Once you get the hang of it, you get into a flow, and in no time you will have your butterflies done. So we'll do the next one on there. Just making sure I can see the outside edge. But I like to do these ones in white, and then I can colour them up with different lustre powders so that you can get some nice colours on the edges. Now, what you've got to do is just rub your finger over the top like this, and then tap it on your board. And what I'm going to do is just ease that so I can get a little bit of air under the corner of that wing, and the same on this one. I just ease that up. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just ease that to the centre and be impatient. Lift that one up. Like that. So don't want to pull that centre bit too far. Just pull that out. Just ease that forward. Don't jar it. And then pop that onto your area. And lift that onto here, like so, and a little tiny bit of Trex on my fingers just to dab the surface, because that way your lustre powder will stick that much better. So if I just brush over, so I'm going to colour the edge with a little bit of avocado green and the body centre. So brush that in. So now I'm going to pop that in there. So if I move the butterfly just to the edge, you'll see the wings can just come over the tip there. So we can allow that to dry, just bring it in together and then dry for about 12 hours. Okay. So I'm just going to leave those to one side until I'm ready to put them onto the side of the cake. I'd like to show you now one of my favourite designers and also eras, Art Deco and Art Nouveau. So I designed these cutters and stencils. So we've got the Mackintosh rose, large and small, and also the Art Deco stencils here, which I'm going to create some off pieces to go on the side of the cake. So we'll start first of all with the Mackintosh rose, also eras, Art Deco and Art Nouveau. So I designed these cutters and stencils. So we've got the Mackintosh rose, large and small, and also the Art Deco stencils here, which I'm going to create some off pieces to go on the side of the cake. So we'll start first of all with the Mackintosh rose. So I've coloured up some Mexican paste. So it's probably about 1 millimetre in thickness, and allow the paste just to rest a while before you cut it out. This is a cocktail stick or toothpick, and there's 3 of those, and what I've done is I've glued them together down the centre here with a little bit of wood glue, and then what I've got is some masking tape, and I've cut a very thin band of masking tape to go across the end there, so that gives a little bit of spring and also a little bit on that end. So you've actually got a handle and something that you can use for quilling, but this is what I designed, or I invented if you like, for the Mackintosh rose. So if we just take the large one and pop the cutter on there, and I think I might be able to get the small one in as well. So those 2 will go over there like that, and then roll over the top. So you cut out your shape, and you can see there you want to be able to follow the white line. So we take that paste away, and then I'm going to work on the larger one first of all. So just clean the edge with your finger like that, so you've got this nice clean outline there. And then what I'm going to do is get a piece of kitchen paper, pop it onto the kitchen paper, and then just use a soft paintbrush to get the paste out of the cutter like that. And then I'm going to use some gold. So this is a gold luster, and what I want to do first of all is just lift that middle section there and just thin it a little bit like that. And then if I just use that tool so I can open up the spiral a little bit more, and then we can use the gold powder. So this is super gold, so just pop some on there, and I'm going to brush on the edge of that all the way around. We've done that. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is just move that onto the board, and this is where we take our quilling tool. So what I'm going to do is just lift that centre bit up there and squeeze it a little bit more. And then the quilling tool goes over that centre piece like that. What I'm going to do is just wrap that over to start it off there, and place that onto your board and then twist as you go like that. So you twist all the way around, and then if you get some Tylose glue, what I'm going to do is just brush on that bit there. That's where the colour wasn't. And then if you take your centrepiece out like that, use the other end like this, so you can decide how you want to have it open. So if you spiral it like this, you'll see that your Mackintosh rose opens out. And then what you do is you take that little bit there and stick that around the bottom. Depending on how you want to have your roses open, you can bring this to one side like that. Or you can tighten them up so they're much tighter in their spiral. So I'll pop that one there and then do the small one. And then lift that centrepiece up. And we're going to take a short commercial break there. We'll be back soon. In there, just getting it started like that. Once you've got it started and you've got the traction on it, then you can twist it around. So you can have them quite tight like that, and your glue on that outside edge, glue on that bit, just to get that in there. Okay, so there's two of the Mackintosh rose. So what I've got here is one of my sphere formers, and if you lift your rose while it's still pliable, you can pop it on there and open it up a little bit more. And this is one that I did earlier, and that one's dry, so you can see that it's got a nice dome shape to it. So these other ones here are flat, and some of them are opened at different ways. So that's our Mackintosh rose. So to do the Art Deco stencils, it's very similar to like the leaf cascade that we did, where we're actually going to emboss the stencil onto the paste. Now you can use these either side, so you've got a right and a left one. So we're going to put a little bit of Trex on the back of the stencil and pop that on there. Then roll over your paste so that stencil becomes embossed, like that. A nice surgical scalpel. So what I'm going to do is just push it against the side of the stencil as I rotate like this. This is a good way of actually being able to cut out things that you want to stand away from the side of the cake, and also as well, in this case, the stencil template. So we do the same on that one. Just push against the outside of the stencil, rotate as we go, and oops, the paste there. We do the circle. So just cut that around. And then we're going to take away that paste. Using the gold luster, a little tiny bit of the tracks over the top, not loads, and then we'll take our powder. Pop some on there. And then we'll brush over the top, working from the edges to the centre. Just using this gold so it matches the Art Deco. A little bit of kitchen paper again so that we can remove gently the surplus. So and I'm just going to enhance where I've got some of the circles like that, just at an angle. And this is a number 2 piping tube along those bits there, and on that one like that. Another one in there, and then just take your angled palette knife so that you can lift the corner of the stencil and take that away. Some warm soapy water to wash them, and then dry them flat and pat them dry. So they're to one side. Okay. Now take your palette knife and just gently slide that underneath. One of the other things that you can do with the Art Deco stencils is after you've embossed them, you can actually cut pieces away. So if you only want to use a small piece, or there's a particularly part of the design that you want to use, so you can cut that away. And dry it from there. The same with that one. Or a topiary. So I'm going to leave those there to dry, like that. So we have the dried quilted flowers, and there's the one that I did just in a different colour so you could see. And we'll start on the side. So I'm going to pop one there. So royal icing on the back. Pop that one like so. Top. And then I'm going to just place those for the moment so I can see if I'm happy where I want to have them. I think that works quite nicely because you've got the line that comes up here and round onto the top of the cake. Put some icing on the back. Have that just at an angle. And another one in that bit. So the beauty of these is that they're fairly easy to make, and also as well that gives you those different options. So that was the other option of just using that clematis flower in there. So you could make them like this, or you could do like the quilted flowers. But I'm going to take that one off there for now, and I'm going to put the butterflies on. So again, some royal icing on the back. And I'm going to position that one there. Just take a paintbrush, put that down so you can take away any of the surplus icing that's coming out underneath. So icing on the back. One just there, I think. And then use your paintbrush just to push that down. So there we've got our summer flowers and butterflies. I've marbled with leaf green and grey, and I'm going to use this one to put the Mackintosh roses on. Okay, so I'm going to take some super gold, and I've mixed that with some alcohol in a little palette. And what I'm going to do is, where I've got some of the marbled effects, I want to just pick out a little bit like that. So you've got like a forked line, and I'm just going to highlight that with some of the gold. Let's bring that down there. So you can just follow that through. So it's bringing out the marble texture. Let's put a little bit more gold into that. So we'll do that in a few of the places. So bringing that up onto the top of the cake. Just follow those nice, interesting, swirly bits that you created when you use a marble effect. It's just a little bit more in there. A bit more on the side. So when you're happy with how you've highlighted the marble effect with the gold, these are the Mackintosh roses that we made. So what I'm going to do is just to turn that one over and use some royal icing where I want it to position onto the side of the cake. And I've also got a large sterile pin. So I'm going to bring this round to the front. And if I just move it back just a little bit, I want to have the rose just there, but I'm also going to use the pin in the centre like that, just to hold it in place. like that, and then take away any icing that is showing. So that is anchored to the side of the cake with that icing there. So now we continue with our Art Deco stencils. Now the stencils we had drying in our former like that. So we'll take those away from there now. So we've got our pieces dry. Now you can experiment how you want to have them on the top of the cake. You can have them like this, so they go around our rows like that, and put some royal icing there. You can have them like that. They can also go on the edge of the cake like this, and we would put some royal icing along there and hold that in position with a pin as well, so it can dry. So we've got those two pieces there. I'm quite happy with those pieces in that position, so what I'm going to do is just put a little bit of icing on the back and pop that onto the cake surface there, and do the same with the other piece. So pop that. You can just adjust them. So you've got that piece done. Just check to see if there's any icing that needs removing. That looks okay, I think, at the moment. So now I'm going to look at where I'm going to put my other Mackintosh roses on the cake. And then where we've got that gap at the top, I want to be able to see the marbled effect, so we put the pin in there as well. And again, if you've got any icing showing, just use a damp paintbrush to go. That circular part of the Art Deco stencil, again, just going to put a little bit of water on the back, and I think that would look nice just opposite that one. So I've added another one here, and I've just positioned those two on the top to secure those in place. So one goes in there. And then this one go there. And then I've got a small one which I'm just going to put at the bottom. So a little bit of ice in there. That will go like that. A part of the stencil which I cut out, and while it's still soft and pliable, I'm going to pop that in that little space there.
Thank you for all watching this week. I hope you all enjoyed what we had in store. I'll be back again next week teaching you the fabulous naked flowers and naked leaves. So join me, Steve's Sugarcraft Tutorials on Cakeflix TV. See you then. Bye bye.